welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and today I have a review for you guys on the new Morphe x Manny Glam palette. Now this hat I'm wearing is actually one that I just unboxed from his Lunar Beauty box, and it says So Pigmented, and I told you guys this is gonna be my new attire for when I review anything from Manny. So I'm also wearing the shirt. It says, if you don't like it, don't. Beep. Watch it. I'm so corny. I know. They came out with this palette with Morphe, and I believe it retails for $20. The outer packaging has this really cute marble moment, and then it kind of has almost like what gives me like sunset ombre vibes on the back with little twinkles, which I actually feel like this is something that I myself would have like come up with, because I don't know, I like kind of random like that. And this is what the box looks like. I actually prefer the packaging, like the layout of the box, and this, like I kind of wish they did the same with the marble all the way down to the bottom and then had it written like this. Like I just like this layout better, but maybe they are worried that you wouldn't really be able to read the writing on the palette if they did that. Sometimes that's why I create like a border for things, because I'm worried, you know, it might not end up being readable. So it has a picture of him, and he says, "It's been so special for me to collaborate with Morphe on this glam collection. I'm so proud to be part of a brand that can bring you such amazing quality at an affordable price. I know you guys will feel beautiful wearing these shades." So there are 12 shades, then 2 highlighters in this palette. This is available in Ulta beauty stores as well as on Morphe's website. It does have a mirror. I actually really like this combination with the 2 highlighters on the side because it makes a really great travel friendly palette. I could see myself taking this when we go out of town. We go to visit family a lot, and so that's either in Missouri or Arizona, and so I could just see this being very travel friendly. And as you guys, if you follow me on Instagram, know, I do tend to like to bring my more affordable palettes while I travel in case it does get broken along the way. I don't like to risk my really expensive palettes, so I think this is a great price, and a great price to not have to worry about it breaking in travel. There was a lot of talk about this being very similar to his collab with Makeupgeek, and I actually have the original Manny x Makeupgeek palette here today. Here is the palette. Obviously this one has a lot more than the Makeupgeek one. Makeupgeek one I believe was a lot more expensive at the time, from what I can remember. I also remember this launch being huge. I remember it being the first time I bought makeup and the internet broke. Was the Manny x Makeupgeek collab, so it was a pretty big deal. So I can see why people are comparing these, because there are some similarities between the two. Specifically, I think like that cranberry and that duochrome green, I think just automatically you see those two together and you think, oh, that's like the same. So before I get into the demo, I'm actually going to show you guys some comparison between these two, so that if you already have the Makeupgeek x Manny palette, you can see if this one is something that you really need, or if you missed out on this one, is this gonna dupe it for you? Because I know some people feel either or. Some people were disappointed saying we didn't need another Makeupgeek x Manny, but some people never got their hands on it, and so they actually are hoping that it's a dupe. So I am going to show you some side-by-side things. The first thing I noticed is that in his, there are no lighter shimmer shades except for the highlighter, but in here he has almost like a champagne shimmer, so it has like no dupes in this one for it, as well as this kind of like that like old school like orangey pinky shade, which again there's no dupe for those at all in here. And then his other lighter shade is like a rose gold shade. So I think it's safe to say that all the shimmers except maybe the green duochrome, they're like not similar at all, but I will swatch them for you guys so you can see. So first of all, I'll try to dupe the best that I can, but it's honestly not a complete dupe. So in Makeupgeek, you have this kind of lighter shimmer, and then the closest thing in here would probably be Apollo, which is that golden highlighter shade. And yeah, it's not gonna be. On top is Makeupgeek, on bottom is Manny. Okay, next there is again that kind of like pinky peachy shade from Makeupgeek, and then there is, I think the closest thing to that would probably have to be either the gold or the Nova. We'll say Nova because it has that peachy kind of goldy feel, but completely just not the same at all again. So the shimmers, like I said, they're not the same. Top Makeupgeek, bottom is his palette, and then he has this rosy gold shade in the Makeupgeek one, and then the closest one I think in this one would probably be Leo, which is more not, it's just not, like they just don't match up at all. Like there's no dupes I feel for the shimmers at all, except maybe the green shade, and we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, just you guys, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Probably just to show people, you know, there's a few shades, like maybe like 2 shades that look the same, but the rest really are not the same. Here is the green duochrome shimmer Utopia, which was actually a pressed pigment from Makeupgeek. Oh, I'm going crazy with this one. This one, I must say, is the quality in the Makeupgeek one is like 20 times better than the one in the Manny x Morphe. Like Makeupgeek shimmers, especially her intense shimmers, are just amazing. So here is the Makeupgeek one versus the one from Morphe. As you can see, the Makeupgeek one has an intense green shine, and the one from Morphe is almost more like grayed out blue. It's not as green, that's for sure. And I definitely love the Makeupgeek one more. There those are. I don't even think you could really call those a dupe, honestly, because it wouldn't even give you the same type of makeup look in the end, because this one is just not the same. Like, it's just not that intense green shimmer. It's just not. Like, do you see that? Like, they don't really look the same, especially on the skin. Like, in pan a little bit, because they both have that shift, but they don't. Let's get into some of the mattes. I feel like that's where we will have most of the similarities. Start off with the shade Mars, which is the red shade in the Makeupgeek palette, which is super duper gritty and like hard as a rock. It's not, like, I always hated touching the shade because it just feels pretty horrible, honestly. Swatched pretty nicely though. It felt pretty terrible, but it swatched nicely. And then Jamenta in his palette, which also feels very gritty. And it's definitely not as red. It's definitely more of a pink undertone. Sorry, these aren't the best swatches. Yeah, it definitely looks more like a magenta, whereas the one from Makeupgeek looks more like a cranberry with more red. I think this one's called Peaches and Cream, or Peach Smoothie from Makeupgeek. Beaches and Cream. So Beaches and Cream look the closest to Dust Cloud from Manny's. So let's try Dust Cloud. I don't think they look the same, honestly. They have different undertones in pan. They kind of do look the same. Actually not. Now here's the thing with these transition shades. If you were looking at them in pictures, I could see how you would think they're the same, but in person, Makeupgeek transition shades are more peachy toned, and these ones are more like golden coppery. Like, they have a different undertone, but I will do my best to see which ones are closest. None of them really dupe each other. I'm just gonna do from lightest to darkest, I guess, because I don't really know how else to show you guys. And lastly, I'm gonna do that really dark brown. In this one, it's called Aphrodite from Makeupgeek, and then this one's called Howl. The Aphrodite definitely has more of like a blackened purple undertone, and the one in his palette is more like a chocolate brown. And I could see how you could create a similar look using those colors, but honestly they're different undertones. Can you see that? So that's like honestly as close as I could get it. I almost feel like any palette you try to match up in this type of way will almost look similar, but looking at it in person, it just, I don't think it's like duping it. I don't. I think there's some similarities. No dupes. No dupes, not even that green one, which I thought would honestly be a dupe. I also thought that the cranberry shades would be dupes, but they're just not. So unfortunately, those of you that missed out on the Makeupgeek times Manny, I do love her foils. They're super intense and brighter than the ones in this palette. But if you're looking to create kind of similar looks that you could have using the Makeupgeek palette, I think that this would kind of give you that. All right, enough talking, now into the demo. Wearing this makeup look for a few hours and I don't really have many problems. The mattes, I think they work fine. I used this yesterday and I did more of just like a chocolatey brown, and I just used all the like transition lighter brown shades and they all blended perfectly. Today using Fire, which I felt like I had to build it up a little bit, just not intense right away, but it is buildable. I feel like the shimmers are good, but yet they're like kind of pressed harder, so you have to almost like kind of like dig your brush in there just a little bit more, but they feel really nice. And then if you use a wet brush, or once you like kind of get it in there, I prefer using it with my finger first and then kind of blending with a brush, because it's easier to pick up with your finger because they are pressed a little bit harder. I enjoy both of these highlighters for highlighters and shadows. They're just my types of shades. I think they're really pretty. Today I only used Nova. Yesterday I used Apollo, which is the golden shade. I did hear some people saying it wasn't that intense, but I was actually really surprised because when I put it on yesterday I was like, wow, that's really intense. Like, I didn't expect it to be, because when I swatched it, it looked very lackluster, and then when I put it on, it looked beautiful. You have to work with some of these shades. Yes, absolutely you do. But could I see myself using this as a travel palette and using it, period? Yes. This palette, when I started swatching it and using it, really reminded me and brought me back to the old school YouTube days where we would all be wanting the same MAC shades, like the same type of shimmery golds. Like, I don't remember what the golds were called, but just, I don't know. This one kind of reminds me of Sable, just like the most wanted MAC shades. This one reminds me more of Club from MAC. And so it kind of gives me that vibe, like Glam from old school MAC that people on YouTube would be obsessed with. You'd always hear the same MAC shades over and over again. And I don't know, I do like this palette. Like I said, you do have to work with it. It might not be, I don't know, I want to say it might not be the best for beginners, but at the same time I feel like the mattes, like since they don't give you intense pigment right away, I feel like a lot of people are coming out with those intense pigmented eyeshadows, but can sometimes be really hard to work with. For instance, like some of Jeffree Star's, the Anastasia Beverly Hills, those can be really hard to blend with other colors and work together. So the mattes I think are great for beginners. The shimmers I think you kind of have to dig into a little bit more to get intense. I found that putting a highlighter on top of the shimmers amplify the shimmer intensity a lot. So sometimes it's just about working with a palette a little bit more, and for the price I still think it is worth it. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this palette. Did you get it? Do you want it? And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.